Okay, so I'm really awkward, by the way. We're just going to start with that. And by the look on some people's faces, I can see that I'm in really good company. But I'm a recovering awkward person, so you're in good luck. So I want to start by asking you if you've ever been to a wedding. And you've got about 30 seconds because someone has introduced you and asked you what you do for the first time. And you've got one of two decisions to make. One, and the one that everyone hopes you do, is you become really charming and everyone really loves you and they think, yeah, that Steve guy is doing something really interesting. Or you can do what most engineers do, which is default back to their safe space. Guess what the safe space is? We're all going to talk about tech. We're all going to talk about Kubernetes and Python and Java and MCPs, right? So imagine this. I was at a wedding and my auntie was talking to 4 of her friends. And she introduced me and she said, Steve, what do you do? So I said, shit, I've got I don't really know what I'm going to say here. So I said, I do Kubernetes and I use Flux for GitOps. And you can just imagine how this is going, right? So I've got 4 60-year-old women with just glossed over faces. And I'm doing 2 things. One, I'm looking for the nearest person that's serving champagne. And the second one is I'm trying to find the nearest toilet. So, why is that? Right? Why do we spend no time thinking about how we're going to communicate with strangers? Right? And why do we always go back and default to the thing that's most comfortable? So, I'm going to take Q&A at the end. If you scan the QR code, ask your questions, you can upvote them. I'll take them in priority order. If I don't get to them by the end, come and grab me afterwards at the break, come and grab me after the workshop. I'm more than happy to stick around. I've come all the way from the other side of the ocean to be here, so I'll give you some time. Has everyone scanned it?
It didn't work properly because of the light.
Of course it didn't. Are we in? If not, I can make it even easier and we can... You can just go to menti.com and type that number in at the end. Implemented a little bit of disaster recovery in this talk, making sure that I covered all angles. Okay, feel free, ask any question you want, go on your phones. I'm not going to take it offensively, apart from the bit where I asked you all to communicate with each other, and then if you are on your phones, we've got a bit of a problem. So, I want to start with this percentage. So, ChainGuard did a reality report last year, and they said that 16% of engineers spend their time building features. And 94% of those people said that building features was the most important and valuable thing that they did in their organization. So what the hell were they doing for the other 84%? Meetings? Probably. Process and red tape? Almost definitely. But really it's about communication friction, right? It's people misconstruing something that you've posted in Slack. Or it's trying to understand why, when you're doing a post-mortem, something went horrifically wrong, and the person is looking for the name, not the reason. And we burn so much time in order to be able to do this. So Microsoft also did a study as well, and they said that in an office, luckily probably most of us work remote. How many of us work remote? Okay, some of you. Unfortunately, the other ones are going to fill into this. So Microsoft did a study and they said an engineer gets interrupted every 2 minutes. So that's 275 interruptions per day. Why? Why do they get interrupted so much? Shout out some ideas, what do we think? 275, that's quite a large number. What's the interruptions? Okay. Anyone else?
Alerts.
Okay, anyone else? Yep. Of course. No one said project managers yet. Come on, guys.
Any form of manager.
So we come back to the same thing, right? We need to be better at the way that we communicate. And communication is not just the words that come out your mouth. Spoiler, we'll get on to what I mean by that in a minute. So have you ever been in a boardroom and maybe you're sitting there, It's a pretty boring meeting, arms are crossed, you're leaning back a little bit, maybe one leg is over the other. When you're doing that, you're communicating. Or someone comes up to your desk and asks you a question, and you're too busy prompting ChatGPT or Claude, and you're not going to give them any response. You're also communicating. And the problem is you haven't said a single word. So all of you are communicating with me right now, and none of you are saying anything. Some of you are doing all right. Some of you are going to work on it. But this is the importance of non-verbal communication. Communication is not just words. So I want to introduce you to Sarah. Sarah was a platform engineer in one of my teams that I was working at. Absolutely incredible engineer. Brilliant. Probably one of the best platform engineers I've ever worked with. However, she had a little bit of a slight problem. So her job was to improve the performance of our platform. So she did what every engineer loves to do, right? We're going to create a POC. We're going to probably prompt it with some MCP servers. Maybe, like some of you, we'll create some documentation. No one really likes to write documentation, let's be honest. We'll get an MCP to write it. But the problem is she went into this meeting room. She came out of this meeting room, and the project didn't go anywhere. Why? Why did the project not go anywhere? Because she hasn't. Correct. Exactly. She can't communicate the value to the stakeholders. And if you can't communicate the value to the stakeholders, guess what? Nothing's happening. Right? So we're back to communication again. So here's what computer science degrees, if you're lucky enough or unlucky enough to do them, doesn't teach you. Which is, I guarantee you that you can write applications that can connect billions of people together, right? You can speak to computers in probably 2, 3, 4, 5 different languages, and you use different prompts to be able to communicate with your insert whatever project you have here. But I guarantee you, if I got you to turn around and speak to the person you've never spoke to before, it would be the most awkward 10 seconds of your whole entire week. Why? So we debug our applications with resilient persistence, right? If we had a bug, a P1, P2, you will sit there all day and you'll figure it out. Hands up the last time someone debugged a conversation after they had it. Okay, look around the room. A few of us. How many times have people thought about how they talk to someone that's a junior, someone that's an intern, someone that's the CTO, or an external stakeholder? By show of hands. Some of you. Right, but what we need to do is we need to be doing this regularly and consistently, because the way that we can communicate drastically changes our careers. Right? We can be really, really good at technology. We can be great implementers of new products and new systems. But if we can't communicate effectively, we lose the whole entire room. So there's some rules of engagement. In the next 30 seconds, I'm going to get you all to stand up. Told you it's going to get really awkward. Told you you're going to do things that you don't want to do. You all read the meetup page. There's no apologies from my side. So once I get you to stand up, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. If the answer is a yes, I want you to sit down. That's it. Everyone get the rules? That's the first set of rules. Okay, everyone stand up. So I want you to sit down if you were Sarah. So have you been somewhere where you've worked on a project where you can't communicate its value and therefore the project never got implemented?
Have been or still are.
Either or. Have been or still are. Okay, next. There's still a good group of people standing up. So let's try this one. Have you seen someone less technical than you get promoted before you? Come on, I've got to get the rest of you down. Last one. Do you think that you're really good communicators, but actually the person listening to you is just kind of nodding along because he wants you to shut up? Okay, so a couple of you can sit down, because what I did is I went like this, and you actually subconsciously, a bunch of you started nodding, right? And I only said sit down or stand up. I never said nod, right? The rest of you can sit down, otherwise it's going to get really awkward for me as well. Right, so what I managed to do here is I managed to persuade you to do something without saying anything. I mentioned the word nodding, I went like this, and like 4 of you started doing this. Right, so the power of these will become really, really effective in the next, insert the amount of time that we have left. So, before we can debug something, we have to understand the architecture of what we're debugging, right? So I want you to think about communication as a stack that we're going to work down. So layer number 1, non-verbal communication. Facial expressions, body language, how relaxed your shoulders are you hunched up. Layer 1. Layer 2, vocal delivery. Tone, pace, volume. This thing's too loud, so I'm not going to bring it too close to my mouth. Verbal content, right? The words that come out of your mouth and the sentences that you put together, right? And the context. This one's really important, right? This one is the most important one of all of these 4. So you can be really relaxed, right? We can be really good with our non-verbal communication. We can gesticulate, we can move our hands. We can have good tonality when we're talking, right? We're not monotonous, we're not keeping at the same level. And our words and our sentences that we've put together are either AI generated and sound really great, or they don't sound like you at all. But the sentences and the words that we say are relatively easy. However, if you don't know who you're talking to, the way that you can communicate needs to be different, and we need to open up multiple avenues for the people that are listening to be able to understand what we're talking about. Right? If we talk the same way to everybody, not everybody is going to understand what I'm saying. Right? And we'll come on to that later. So we'll get to level 4. Level 4, I'm going to give you a question that will open up and allow you to be able to communicate with anybody. Spoiler, it's worked on cleaners, it's worked on CTOs, it's worked on investors, but unfortunately you're going to have to earn it. So we're going to have to do a few little awkward things. So we're going to start with layers 1 and 2. We're going to start with hand signals and we're going to start with speech. So does anyone hasn't a guess what 12.5 is?
Words per minute?
Nope. Anyone else? Go for it.
Seconds to first impression.
No? Good suggestion. Go for it.
Between ums?
No, mine's like 3.5 seconds. There's no way it's 12.5. So 12.5 is the weight in which your brain gives these. So your brain will give hand gestures 12.5 times more weight than the words that come out your mouth. So guess what? These are more useful than this when you talk, right? And the way that you'll notice this is probably a lot of you have watched TED Talks. The best TED Talks and the ones that get the best reviews move their hands a lot. The ones that don't, they don't move their hands at all. Some of them even have their hands in their pockets, right? And when I watch these, I start to work out what they have in their pocket. Is it a clicker? Is it a wallet? Is it a phone? Is it a pager, right? So hand signals are really, really important, hand gestures. So I'm going to give you 3. The first one is the steeple. Does anyone know the steeple? Anyone familiar with this? Anybody used it? Okay. So the steeple is this. I'm going to have to put this microphone down. This. So I want you to do this for a sec. What do you feel when you do this? Authoritarian, confidence, relaxed. So CTOs and leaders do this all the time, and I guarantee you're not even watching and looking at it. Right? When they give public speeches and you have an all hands or a quarterly meeting, they'll all stand there like this, and no one will realize what they're doing. And it's just they're grounded and confident in what they're talking about. So subtle, but very, very powerful. The other one is the platter, right? Hands open wide. You would have seen some of me. I even did it over there when I was introducing myself and welcoming to you. Very open, very communicative. Hopefully you want to listen to what I'm saying. If you don't, I apologize. But I at least want to build a connection with you. That's the platter. Then you have the leveler. The leveler is the complete opposite. It's hands on the table, hands on the chair. This meeting's over, please leave, I'm done with you. Use that one, infrequently, I would suggest. But it's very powerful. So you can say the same phrase using the platter and the leveler, and they give completely different ways of thinking about the communication. For example, right, I can say, I don't think that this relationship is really going to work out, but I wish you all the best. One. Or I can say, I don't think this relationship's really going to work out, so I think you should probably leave. Very similar sentences, but very different outputs. So you can use the platter and the leveler with your significant other. I didn't tell you to do that, but it's quite a powerful technique if you want them to agree for you to go out on a bender or you want to go out for a weekend with the boys, use this one. So we've talked about hand signals. Now we're gonna debug the voice. So relatively simple. I want you to pair up. You're going to say these 4 words. That's it. The deployment failed again. So the only difference here is that all of you have got next to the people that you're familiar with. So you're all going to stand up and you're all going to go and sit next to someone that you do not know on purpose, because you're all way too comfortable right now, and the whole point of this is we're going to get really, really awkward. So I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds. They're all going to stand up. They're going to go and sit next to somebody that they've never spoke to before, and you're all going to have to go and talk to strangers. I apologize in advance. So everybody up, everybody move. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Go and sit next to someone that you don't know. And by the way, okay, this group here has barely moved. So there needs to be a little bit of movement around here. Unfortunately, the reason why I stood at the front is so that I could see everybody that was talking to each other. Okay, everybody sit down. If everyone can sit down. Okay, could I get 10 seconds of silence, please? Okay, so the way this is going to work is one of you is going to be partner A and one of you is going to be partner B. So between the two of you, work out who that is. Partner A, raise your hand. Okay, partner A, put your hand down. Partner B, put your hand up. Who's partner B? Okay, so first one, I want you to say it as if you're terrified, right? So your partner A is going to be the junior engineer, and they're going to be communicating with the senior engineer, and they're really freaking scared that they're going to get told off. So I want you to do one thing. Don't worry about the words that are coming out of their mouth, because we already know the words that are going to get said. I want you to watch non-verbal communication. That's it. 4 words. Partner A goes first. Go. Okay. Now partner B, say it to partner A. Okay. Now you're going to say it like you're angry. So this time we're going to switch the roles. So partner B is going to go first, partner A is going to go afterwards. So now we are the senior engineer that's annoyed at the junior engineer because they've broke the build again. Again, watch facial expressions. Partner B go first, partner A go second. I'll give you 15 seconds to do this. Okay, you're having way too much fun. So, back in the room. So, finally, I want you to say this as if you find it subtly hilarious. So you're really arrogant in your organisation. You walk in with a little bit of swagger, and you think the thing's really funny. Maybe you're the tech lead, and this is just the same shit again that's happened, right? Again, partner A this time goes first. Partner B goes afterwards. Watch the facial expressions. Watch the body language. Go. Okay, everyone finished? So now, like any good sprint review, I'm going to go around each table and I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. So we're going to start at this table here and we're going to work our way around to here. This is going to be one glorified table, so you can all shout and scream at the same time. So, table number 1. Tell me something that you noticed that was interesting to you about this exercise. Okay. Did anyone notice anything interesting from this table when you were terrified?
It's hard to pretend that you're terrified when you're not.
Okay, we need to work on this. This is going to be a long day if you can't figure this out. Okay, anything from a facial expressions, anything from a body language perspective
Less eye contact.
about terrified. Okay, less eye contact, good. Anything else?
Body shrinks.
Yeah, a bunch of people hunch their shoulders in like this, right? Oh shit, I've buggered it again. Okay, this group here, when you're angry.
People make themselves big when they're angry.
Oh, you're ruining it. Do you want to see? Okay, you can't have his answer. So did anyone notice anything when they said it angrily? This table here. Say again?
Speak up.
Yes, exactly. Got very, very loud in here very quickly.
The angry person makes eye contact.
Yes.
Who isn't angry.
Yes. There was a really interesting action that happened over here. Someone slapped the table. Right, so what did you notice? When you're angry, you can't control your emotions. I'm looking at the person that did it, but I'm just giving you an example. Right? And then this massive group over here, what happened when you found it subtly hilarious? Okay, anything else? Anything else? All of you looked at each other. Right? So we've said the same 4 words and we've got 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways of dealing with it. Right? So when we have types of conversations, we need to be able to control ourselves. Right? So it comes back to when we were talking before about how many of you have practiced things. Do you practice your emotions? Do you put yourself in awkward situations? Right? I'll give you a good example. What I want you to do is the next time you get in a lift, I want you to interact with the person that's in the lift. It is awkward as hell. Right? And then see what kind of information and conversations you have. A lift is max 30 seconds, maximum. And let's be honest, you're never going to see that person again, unless you go to breakfast at the same time. Go to breakfast a little bit later, be a bit later to the office. Tell the client, sorry, I had to be late because I spoke to a random stranger in the lift. But the more we practice this kind of stuff, the easier it gets. So, one more thing, I want you to introduce yourselves. Same partners, partner A and B. I want you to imagine this is the first time you've ever met this person. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I'll raise my hand when I want you to stop. I'm not going to tell you to look at anything. I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions afterwards. So introduce yourselves, A first, B second. You've just met each other for the first time as if you were walking in that door right there. Go. Okay, stop. Everybody stop. You're having way too much fun. Fun's over. Back to sprint planning, sorry. Okay, so by show of hands, how many of you said, hey, what do you do? Did we get that far? Okay. Anyone say, hey, how are you? I heard it. You definitely said it. Yeah, you did. So, they're what I call conversation dead ends. What do I mean by that? Well, the conversation ends immediately after you ask the question. So, as an example, hey, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you? I'm all right. The end. Or, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm a developer. Well, I'm a platform engineer. Do you write Python? No, I write Terraform. What's Terraform? HCL. What's HCL? Right? We're playing verbal ping pong, but we're not really getting anywhere. Right? There's no real rally. So, what do we have to... The clicker's got a mind of its own. So what do we notice here? Right? We notice the fact that we can't build relationships when we have transactional conversations. It's impossible. Right? When I ask you the question, what do you do? So imagine you ask me the question, what do I do? And I tell you that I'm the cleaner. What's your next move? Exactly. What do you clean? And guess what? You're going down the cleaning route and you're never coming back. So, lucky enough for you, I'm going to give you a nice question that will open up the way that you can communicate with people. It will really build rapport with people. So here it is. Have you been working on anything exciting recently? And guess what? When I was standing over there, I asked probably maybe 8 or 9 of you this question. And guess what? 8 of 9 of you told me tech stuff immediately. It's a slight problem. So, I'm gonna pick you, and I'm gonna ask you this question. I want you to come and stand up here, because everyone's gonna watch you. Told you it's gonna be awkward. Unfortunately, you decided to sit at the front, so it's like stand-up comedy. We always pick on the people at the front. So please come up and stand right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a selfie, because communication makes friends. And at least I've made one friend from this whole entire exercise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you this question. Have you been working on anything exciting recently?
Yes, working on my photography side, gig basically, building up a business basically, working for agencies, working for myself, and creating a portfolio, sharing artwork.
Okay. Did anyone notice what happened?
He's smiling.
That's a start, right?
He was facing away from you when you were there.
No, he was a little bit nervous, but let's just gloss over that. Let's assume he wasn't nervous, right? His eyes lit up. It was an invitation to share passion. And guess what? He had to stop himself from talking. He could have carried on going, by the way. Right? It's not a conversational dead end. You can sit down. Thanks so much. Right? So, why does this work? Right? Let's debug why I think this sentence is so great. So, have you been? Present perfect tense over a period of time. Working on. I don't want the destination. I want the journey. I want the tough bits. I want the bits where you learn from it. I don't just want you to tell me, I installed the latest Kubernetes MCP. I want you to tell me why it didn't work, tell me how it didn't implement with the thing that you're working on, tell me how it didn't work on premise. This is the most important word in the whole entire sentence. If you want to talk to me about tech, go ahead. If you don't, also great, right? The problem is that as engineers, we default back to our safe space. Remember the wedding before? We've got to get out of our comfort zone, and we've got to talk to people about things that they like. Not everybody understands what you're doing, by the way. Exciting. Hopefully, the thing that they're working on is exciting. If it's not, we've got a slightly different problem, and we have to do a pivot midway. And then recently, we want it to be easily accessible from their brain. We don't want them to stand there or sit there and think about this thing for too long. So, what I want you to do is I want you to do partner A and partner B again, and I want you to ask that question. Have you been working on anything exciting recently? I want you to do two things. Number one, what type of information did you get back that you didn't get back when I told you to introduce yourselves for the first time? Secondly, I want you to look at the body language. Don't really worry about what the person's saying too much. Right? Just watch what happens. Okay? Go. We'll go back again. Go. You've got 30 seconds. Okay, time's up. You're having way too much fun. Guess what? You're all still talking to each other, and you've only met this person maybe 2 minutes ago. Right? Okay, hands up if the conversation flowed. That's a good start. Hands up if you learned something that you didn't know the first time that you introduced yourselves. Almost all of you. Point proven. Right? So what I want you to do is the next time you meet someone for the first time, ask them this question.
What did they say no?
It's like I already knew you were a bunch of engineers. So I had a DR strategy in the slide deck because I knew someone was going to ask that. So if you don't have exciting, we've got options. Interesting. Frustrating. Boring. So when you ask these questions, you can position yourself to talk about the thing that you want to talk about, right? If you're doing something really boring, you ask the boring question, they respond, and you get, guess what? You get the chance to rant about the boring crap that you're doing at work. Because that's all you really wanted to do. We're all very selfish humans. We like to talk about our own stuff. So you have a different bunch of options. Exciting is the one that I'll go for first, but if that one doesn't land, like I said, we'll pivot midway and we'll choose another bunch of them. Boring is the one I wouldn't really use because you end up on a downward spiral of doom and you never really get your way back out of it unless you kind of switch the conversation midway. So, all of this leads to something that I call the API, right? And we're going to talk about the human API. So A is ask the question, ask the killer question, right? Hopefully the fact that we're all engineers, you spend your whole entire life building APIs. This one's slightly different, but we're still going to have to build it nevertheless. So A is ask the question. B is position yourself with confidence. Use the hand gestures to your disposal. Remember, 12.5 times more weight, use these to your disposal, right? Most people just sit there with that talk with their hands in their pockets. Third one, implement with influence, right? If we can influence people, we can be extremely valuable to an organization. So this leads us on to what I call the triple P. And everyone's thinking, what the hell is he talking about? So the way this works is it's a framework for allowing my audience to be able to understand what I'm talking about. So that's the first thing I do. I present it. Sorry, I preview it. Then I present it. So I say, the way the triple P works is by exposing my audience to multiple neural pathways, by giving them the same context via different cognitive approaches. And you've all successfully glossed over, so it worked perfectly. And then I present it again. I say to you, it's like I'm driving along the motorway and I'm looking at the GPS system, or I'm looking at the road signs, or I'm asking the person next to me if we're going the right way. Question, what have I just done? Do you remember layer 4 when I talked about the context? Do you remember I don't know what the majority of you do, I don't know how senior you are, how junior you are. I'm giving you 3 attempts to understand what I'm saying. Maybe one of them reaches the end destination, which is your mind, and you understand what I'm saying, or maybe all 3 of them do and I'm an absolute genius. I guarantee you that the one in the middle probably confused a bunch of you. But what ends up happening is we immediately go to the one in the middle as engineers. Safe space, right? Deeply technical. We're just going to talk about all this stuff. We're going to explain to people MCPs and GitOps and how Kubernetes works and how it's a desired state records. No one gives a crap what all that crap is, right? So we don't know who we're talking to. So we have to be able to present multiple ways. So that takes me all the way back to the beginning when I was talking about Sarah. So Sarah came up to me maybe 3 or 4 months after she's had this failed attempt at trying to get this project to kick off. She said, Steve, I'm going to do it again. Sod it. What's the worst that can happen? So what she didn't do is she didn't write any new slide deck. She didn't write any new documentation. She did one thing. What was the one thing? Second?
She asked for advice.
She practiced the conversation. She'd already been in there once and it failed and it flopped spectacularly. So next question. Told you it was going to be an interesting conversation, and I'm going to ask some awkward questions. Who did she try it on?
Yourself.
Okay, she talked in the mirror, yep, that's one. Anyone else?
Stranger.
Random stranger. She didn't do that, but she could have done that. Anyone else? Her colleagues. Has anyone tried to convince 3 other platform engineers that their idea is great? Platform engineers love to try and pick holes in everything. Way more than a CTO is going to do, because all the CTO cares about is the money. Right, so she practiced it with 3 of her platform team. Then she practiced it with me. So, what did she do next? Bold in the meeting room. Relaxed, chilled, ready to execute. Did the steeple stance immediately. Asked the CTO the killer question. Built that report immediately before he knows what she's even going to talk about. Delivers the presentation. What happened? No. The difference is now he's engaged and he was asking interesting questions. Right? So 25 minutes later, she comes out, she goes around the whole entire team, starts high-fiving people. This woman does not high-five at anybody, by the way. So she's high-fiving anybody. She's gone, shit, like I didn't change anything. All I did is I just changed the way that I communicated. Exactly the same person, exactly the same skill set. The only thing she did was she practiced the conversation before she did it. So roll on 6 months. She's now the VP of engineering, looking after 200-person engineering team, right? And all she did is change the way that she communicated. That's it. So what we've talked about in the last however much time I've spent, is the absolute foundational building blocks of communication. So this playbook, if you scan it, you can download it. It has the 4 workshop protocols that we're going to talk about at the workshop. It's also got 3 bonus ones, because I'm nice like that. And it's completely free to download, right? So, whilst you're downloading this, what I want to do is I want to say thanks for you guys for having me all the way over from sunny Spain to come and talk to you. It's been a pleasure. However, I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine that you could walk into any single meeting room and you could present your project and you were guaranteed an emphatic yes. Or, if you're a leader, I want you to imagine that your team could come and pitch to you any project with a guaranteed yes, and your team looks like rock stars within the organization. Now I want you to imagine that you can do this every single time, right? In the next hour, that is what we are going to do, right? It's going to get very, very awkward. I'm giving you the pre-warning. You're going to do some things that you don't really want to do, and unfortunately you're going to have to talk again to even more strangers. But if we can get comfortable doing this, you can walk into any room and you've already built the rapport with them because you've asked the killer question, and you are no longer the awkward guy or the awkward girl, right? You go in there with complete and utter confidence, and guess who's awkward? The people that are sat the other side of the table trying to work out how the hell you managed to convince them. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. All right, I guess that question was really good because a ton of you have non-stop talked for the last however long we've been here. So I'm gonna race through this Q&A. The idea was the workshop was gonna be 4 sessions. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you choose 2. We're gonna rush the third one if we get to it, but I'll give you we won't do 2 rounds, maybe we'll do 1 round, and then we'll get to the diagnostics at the end. So I already know who asked this. It's that right there. So do I like matcha? No, I don't, because it tastes like dirt. And then everyone's like, I love matcha with caramel. Well, then therefore you don't like matcha, in my opinion. So let's go to the next one. Which form of communication is the most important? So I would say the most important one is your ability to be able to maintain your emotions, right, in difficult situations. Right, one of the hardest things you can do is let people go. Right, it's really, really tough. It's not a nice experience. I've had the displeasure of doing it a couple of times, right? But we have to be able to handle our emotions in those situations, and we have to be very empathetic as humans. Practice, use hand gestures, maybe do it in a comfortable place. Don't do it in the office, in a boardroom, when it becomes a bit transactional. And the other thing that I'd recommend is sit round tables. Don't sit around square tables, right? Round circles are much better than corners. Oh, wow. Okay, which books would I recommend? Vanessa Van Edwards. Does anyone know Vanessa Van Edwards? She talks a lot about communication. She's incredible. I would highly recommend all of her books. She has a book called, I think it's Captivate or Cultivate, I can't remember the exact one. She also has another one about communication of teams as well. There's another guy called Vin Gang. He also does a lot of YouTube videos, and he's a massive public speaker and talks a lot about communication. Those 2 are probably the best ones I'd use. They both have books, they both have audio books, they both have YouTube videos. I'd highly recommend them. Why are we back to matcha again? Stop with matcha, please. Do these tactics work successfully on autistic people who struggle to read non-verbal cues? Yes, but if we can't read non-verbal cues, then we have to be even better in the way that we communicate, right? So we take the hands in the pockets, we put them on the bum of our seats, and we really think about how we communicate. So when I talked to you about the triple P becomes even more important in that situation, right? We have to be able to talk to multiple people, and we have to be able to give them the ability to have multiple ways of understanding. The other thing that we don't do enough is we don't clarify the fact that the person that you're talking to understands what you're saying. You just talk to them. Right? Do you understand this? Yes. Can you repeat back to me what I've just said so that you understand it? Yes. Right? 9 times out of 10, you don't just do that. You just constantly keep talking to them, and then they leave the meeting and you're like, maybe they understood it. I guess they did. They didn't say anything. So that would be my recommendation for that. Best one-liner to remember this talk: get comfortable being uncomfortable and talk to people in lifts, and it will change the whole game and the way that you communicate. That's not really one line, that's 2 lines, but I think I've already answered this. Can I have the slides? Not yet. I'm giving this talk in a couple of weeks. Once I've given that talk in a couple of weeks, I will give it to Ben. Ben can publicize it wherever he wants. But yes, you can. And he's also going to put the recording on YouTube, so you'll have all of it. This one we've done. This one we've done. Lord have mercy. Yes in America, no in Manchester, as some of you already know. Screw you, Ben. From the hand gestures mentioned, how would you use them in the days of video calls? So, hands up if people are familiar with the word proxemics and what proxemics means. Okay, all of you need to go and do some Google research into proxemics. So not right now. Okay? Get away from these devices, they're lethal. So what do I mean, what's proxemics? It's the study of distances, right? So if I asked you an interesting question, which is, when you join a Zoom call, how close is your face to the webcam? Like here. Right, so this is what you call private or intimate space. Right, this is the space that if you get the metro or you get the tube in London, you spend all of your time in this space, as some people from London will be able to tell you. Right, and then you can go further and further back, and there's a space called public space or comfortable space. Right, and that's the space really the other side of the boardroom, or enough to be able to hug the person next to you. The problem with this is, when we all join Zoom calls, we end up being in personal space. So what happens is when you talk to the person, they think you're screaming at them. Right? But why do I say that the further you move back from the webcam, the more valuable the conversation is? Let's see how much you were listening.
See your body language.
Correct. I can use these. Right? I can explain boxes, I can draw boxes in the air, I can draw circles, I can gesticulate, I can get really angry. Right? But if I'm just there, I'm just constantly screaming at you. Even if I'm having a nice conversation with you, you still think I'm an arsehole. So, that's what I would recommend doing. The length that you want to have, pro tip, is you put your arm out like this, you put your index finger out like this, and you should be able to touch your webcam. That's about the distance that you want your webcam away from you. If that doesn't work, move it a little bit further back. This is like an infinite loop of doom, isn't it? Are we done? Does anyone have any questions that are not on this list and is not about Matcha before we move on? 3, 2, no, okay, you had your chance. Where? Ah, go for it.
Yeah, when you're talking about personal space, different cultures have different levels of personal space. How do you make this work in a room where you've got one Spanish guy and one Japanese guy, and one wants to be very close and one wants you on the other side of the room?
Why are you standing up? Sit down. That's the way to solve it. Sit down and have a conversation. Right. The problem is what ends up happening is you start a conversation standing up, and then someone knows the distance of proximity and they start going like this. But what happens is that everyone else is coming towards them, and you're basically standing by the entrance to the door because there's nowhere else to go. But actually, if you just say, look, can we sit down and have a conversation? The proxemics has just dissipated immediately, and you can have a conversation. So I try and get people to sit down. Or I say, actually, rather than standing here, can we go to that room and have a private conversation? It doesn't really matter that it's private, it's the fact that it has a table and a set of chairs. That's the way I would deal with it. Okay.